I just want to say welcome to everybody. It's such a pleasure to host you today on this webinar from the Action University in Copenhagen and what we call the Think Tank for Local Sustainability, or you could call it local community practices, sustainable communities in Denmark. Today we will zoom in on why and how places matters deeply in public leadership and governance, and how we can move beyond systems and KPIs and instead lead and create policy rooted in places, people, and communities we belong to. So I want to create communities not only inside organizations, but also across borders and with places. And I work a lot with cross-professional groups, action learning groups. And in the Action University, we work with how to translate these performative, creative methods into a public management setting. So, Ida, I just want to ask you, because in Denmark, there's a lot of new reforms shaping the role of municipalities. For instance, reforms about public health and green transitions. But from your perspective as a municipal director, how do you see and sense the place as relevant in your daily work with the reforms and in the development of your community?
And now we are actually facing a storm of reforms in the municipalities, and a common theme in the reforms is the focus on including the citizens' perspective much more in how we plan and how we carry out our work. For example, in my municipality, we have around 400 young people under 30 who are not in education or employment. Yeah, we're interested in how can we do things differently than we usually do so that young people can become more self-sufficient. And to succeed, I think, well, we need to involve them, the young people themselves, and also the local communities where they live. We must build on the strength that already exists nearby. So I think through dialogue and interaction, we should explore what those people, young people and places can contribute. And from my point of view as a director, I need to talk with my politicians and with the politician about how we measure and evaluate successes, because they too must create policies in new ways. And that means using, for example, dialogue circles instead of long reports, or practical tools instead of abstract goals. We need them to get closer and be more a part of the process where we make value together.
And maybe, Rune, you also will tell us a little bit about how you work with places and the sense of place, and maybe also say a little bit about you are another kind of director than Ida, where Ida is managing the area for kids and culture, for instance. You are much more in the area of environment and climate action. But Rune, I'm so curious about your thoughts about working with place and sense of place.
Thank you. Places are very important for communities. It's where people live. It's where they meet. So, of course, we listen to people's ideas and needs and their experience from where they live when we work with city planning and also with climate projects. We just made a new municipal strategy. It's the biggest one, or the overall strategy. It's called the Shaping the Future Together. It's about creating solutions together with the citizens and local groups, whether we're talking about climate change, but also young people's well-being, health issues, and improving neighborhoods. It's taking an area-based approach. We look at whole neighborhoods across social and physical and cultural dimensions. And it's much easier to get people involved when you do that and find goals together, common goals, when we take this area-based approach. The City Council has just as had money for this approach is in a community package which support local projects, but not from something we should do, but in partnership with non-profit organizations, because they are much better to involve people than we are. And lately, we also changed how we work with sustainability. We, instead of a very top-down climate plan, we now focus on local ideas and community action. And we use the donut model. I think everybody you know that, which helps us balance the planet's limits with people's needs. And we ask, what can we do here together in this neighborhood? And to make it also more fun and easy to talk about, we made a board game. It's being tested right now in the schools and used in workshops to start conversation and inspire local actions. But it has been a long way. We learned a lot from our long-term work in social housing areas. And we also learned from our work in urban renewal program projects. They are about enrolling people from the start and creating meeting places, green spaces, public areas that brings people together and make neighborhoods more attractive to live in. So I think that's the answer to how we bring places into life, by listening to local voices and treating every place as a shared story we build together.
Wow, it sounds really beautiful and inspiring, Rune. Can you share just one thing you think that is difficult working in this way where you involve communities and people in places?
I think one barrier is how people look at the municipality, because we also have a lot of control actions. So that's why we try to involve non-profit organizations and in the way we involve people also.
And what about towards the political level, just as Ida was talking about as well? Because one thing is to have this political statement that we're creating welfare together, but what happens if some of the citizens doesn't want to have this new housing area or this green park because they love the old park and the old lake? So what happens?
Yeah. Because it's about also giving away control, giving away power, giving it to local communities. And it can be difficult, because why are you elected? That's because you want to, you like the power. You have some goals, you have some vision for the municipality you live in. But also it's difficult for the administrative workers. It's a new way of working with the community. And you don't, for many, it's more, instead of you have all the expertise and you know what to do, you should more be facilitating people to help themselves. And that's to be a new way to be a municipality in. So it's a new role for politicians, it's a new role for us, but it's also a new role for the community, because they are maybe used to have a problem and ask, can you come and help us with this problem? And we say, we can come and help you to help us with this problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a new role for everyone.
What do you feel like, John?
So that I found that really helpful. So thank you very much. If I do a little quick reflection back on what you were saying, what I heard you say. So one of the things that you were talking about, Ida, and I think Rune is the same for you, there's a financial time frame when budgets are set. There's a time frame of elections. There's a time frame for the organizations themselves in the public services that we're dealing with. So they have their sense of time. And what we're talking about here is, how is it possible to create the environment for a different conversation and at the same time be having to operate by some of the existing ways of working. So you can't stop elections, the financial planning cycles, but they do inform sometimes the decisions that get made and the way we see a place. If you live somewhere, then your sense of time is very different. And it might be quite different depending on how old you are. So for those parents of young children or the grandparents of even younger children, their sense of time is going to be different. It may be linked to education, the point at which you start school. It may be linked to the cycle of the family life. And I say this because the ways in which we are trying to change not just how people feel about their place and feel more engaged. So there is something about the way we develop and support the capacity building of residents and people who live in an area to feel, if I participate, if I engage, am I going to be heard? And then I thought there was something about the impact of all of what you were both saying in two dimensions. One is on the current generation, professional workers, their education and training, how they engage, how they think about the place that they're working, because in some respects, you're asking them to unlearn what they've been trained to do. You're doing that as you're engaging in the different relationship building. So you can't start with a new generation of trained professionals in the way that you and we think is the right way or different way, better way of working. You're having to deal with their needs, their understanding, their level of confidence of working this way, and then what happens next. Language is really important. Here in the UK, I think you can mark or you can notice a difference in policy from when initiatives were called area-based or locality-based from when they were called neighbourhood-based. Locality and area or place tend to be more technocratic. They tend to be more operational. Neighbourhood tends to be focusing on more collaborative relationships. It's a sense of place, if you like, that a neighbourhood feels more alive. It feels you're engaging with where people are, whereas locality and place tend often to be language that's used by those people sitting in City Hall rather than people out on the street.
I think it's very interesting about the place and how people commit to the place, or if the citizens, example, the young people, think about the place that could be a park or a square between some houses. And if they think of the place as their own place where they can join and develop and have ideas, or if they think about the place as the municipalities' place, as the administration's place, who define what's in it and what's going to happen, what kind of activities.
And I guess here there might be some differences in US and in Denmark, because in Denmark we are used to having this very huge welfare state that are constantly helping the citizens. Whereas I guess that in Philadelphia and UK, we have a very minimal welfare state. So it might not be the case that they need to relearn their role, because there are no welfare state in the sense as we know it in Denmark. So there might also be some differences here. But talking about different kind of roles here.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say very briefly that while our governments may be different and the role of the governments may be different in our prospective locations, what I'm hearing is a commonality of the physical place, the people that are involved, and I think Rune said it in a way that we create shared stories to create a sense of place. So I feel like no matter where we are, we still need those elements to create that place, the physical location, the people, and that kind of opportunity to create shared stories.
Thank you. It's just one thing that came to my mind is why do we look at the communities right now to find the answers of the big societal problems like climate change, youth, depressions, and the health? In the past, I think we looked at communities because we could see inequalities across the city, across the country. Some areas was more disadvantaged than others, and then we wanted to make a difference there. Now it's different. Now it's the welfare state that is giving up because it doesn't have the resources and it doesn't have the answer to these problems. It's not able to make a solution for youth depression or how to change the climate because it's about how we live our lives together. I've stayed there for a long time, and the United States. So we look to you, find new way of doing things, not because the new problems we face now is more complex. And the state is more weak than earlier.
Yeah, maybe the state is more weak, and maybe it raises questions about how can the state learn from the communities that are able to create real felt welfare? Is that even possible?
I want to just say a few words about the guest that I've invited here. Ben is an executive director of a regional government that is not only unusual in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I also asked Brittany, she will tell you about a very small municipality that expands during the day. It sits very close to Philadelphia. It has a distinct history, and it evolved to become a place where people want to be. Dr. Ron Camacho is chief of police at North Charleston. He has engaged in his own process of personal transformation, quite apart from his career, and he is using this to really engage communities.
Yeah, thank you. So, yes, I manage the Council of Governments for Center Region, which is the area in Pennsylvania around Penn State University. So it's the largest of the state universities here, probably around 45,000 students overall, which creates an interesting dynamic in the region as our population swells and comes down for the summer. But it leads to a lot of interesting challenges, but it has a complex nature because there are 6 separate communities that make up the region as a whole that is primarily influenced by the university. And it has brought around some interesting challenges and opportunities that led to the creation of the COG, the Council of Governments. In the United States, there are very few that offer services as wide-ranging as ours does. And we are essentially a service organization built to assist municipalities. We are technically a government, but we do not have our own government structure. I actually have 32 elected officials, which are all the elected officials for the 6 communities that all come together in what we call the General Forum once a month to vote on any major items that we have. Primarily, it's budget related. I have most of the operational control of the organization to provide those services for the communities. So rather than each community spending the money to create 6 small libraries, we created one extremely nice library in the center of the region, and it is fully supported. We do all of the regional planning. So we are taking our 6 communities and interviewing residents, doing surveys, speaking with students to find what kind of future they want from the region. We do all of the traffic planning for the entire county. We provide fire and emergency management services to the entire region. So if you are attending one of the Penn State football games, which our population grows even more for the American football games. Their stadium is I believe it is the fourth largest stadium in the world, with a capacity of around 107,000 people. And then the two founding plans, which are the ones that talk more. The first is regional parks. This origin story for our county governments. Originally, the school district maintained one or two parks in the area, as the communities wanted to start having more parks as more people moved into the area for the university. The school district didn't want to do it anymore, so they started a regional governance model, which eventually became the COG. And we took over the management of all of the parks in the municipalities. So we do all of the maintenance, we do all of the programming, we have all the expertise and equipment. And we cover about 150 square miles. I apologize, I can't convert to kilometers that quickly in my head, but 150 square miles of territory. There are, I believe it's 45 municipal parks inside that. And then we have a number of regional facilities as well. So this is kind of the modern iteration where we've started to look at the needs for different sports fields, event spaces. We have baseball and softball fields. We run multiple municipal pools. So the swimming pools in the region are managed by us. We also have an active adult center. So where our seniors can go do activities together. We provide meals. And we also have a nature center. So there is a local marsh that we have preserved, and we make sure that there is a lot of nature-centered programming there. We have kids programs that run almost all year long. And I believe at the Nature Center, we run about 120 programs a year, from various camps on kayaking, learning nature, learning how to be a good steward of nature. And so these regional parks have become the new focus of our operation.
Can I interrupt you? I think this is maybe relevant to people. This is a lean operation. This is not a government flush with money. It sounds like when Ben's talking that, wow, they must have a lot of funding. It's not the case. They really do have to engage. And why do each municipalities are like, why are we putting this money forward? Why, if the park over in this other municipality is available, then why should we have to put in money? I mean, there's a lot of negotiation, mediation that has to go on to understand that we either do this together or we don't.
We are an urban core surrounded by an agricultural community, and we represent all of that. So we have a number of dairy farmers, corn and soybean farms. They make great ice cream and cheese here, but with an academic institution in the middle.
Yeah, am I correct in that your fire and emergency services are to a large degree volunteer?
Yes. Yeah, we have a core. We are building up the core of full-time leadership served mostly by volunteers, and many of those volunteers are students from the university. We created a live-in program to help those students out. So as they volunteer for us, we give them housing within the fire station. And we have a wide variety of responses because of the nature of the area. The other big service that we offer is code administration. So all of the building code, making sure that the buildings being built and that are already built are extremely safe. With there being a university, we have extensive apartment buildings throughout the region. Unlike most governments, we have now been able to provide this service free to the municipalities. All of our services come through the cost of permits since 1978. Code administration does not cost the taxpayers, but the way we've kind of looked at it is that we have a number of shared opportunities and challenges in the region, and that's what brought our municipalities together. That's what brings people together. There are shared values amongst those municipalities and the people who live there. That helped create the framework and the strategies that we use to work on problems. And then there was shared action. And that shared action has led to some very strong results, which is why we are a very unique organization. It has been hard to duplicate everything that we do in other places. but it is a much cheaper, more efficient way to provide government services. But we are dealing with many of the same problems that you are. And how do you create that sense of place?
Yeah, it's a lot to hear from Denmark as well. I'm also from Faxe Municipality. It's very interesting what you're telling us, Benjamin. How do you work with the leadership? How do you work about the motivation? Have you done something special, or have you done a special program, or how do you do that? Because I could imagine this is a very big organization where you have a lot of people that have to do the same things. Then you can't do like that if you don't work with the people. So how do you do that?
It's not always easy. Each of the municipalities wants to be their own entity. So we do as much as we can to very specifically make it clear that we are not another government. We are not trying to make them all one thing. That's why I refer to ourselves as a service organization. They are each charged with providing a number of services to their citizens and to keep their taxes as low as possible, which is, should not be the driving force, but it is often the driving force in trying to keep things as cheap as possible. And they know that they can do that best through us. For the most part, the residents are unaware that it is another organization that does all of these things for them. So within the organization, we work to make sure that everyone who is running for office, we meet with them, we explain we are there to enhance the things that they do as a community, and we try to get to them as early as possible. We certainly have detractors. There are people who do not think we should exist, but they are well outnumbered because most people see the financial advantages that come with the organization.
I think John also has a question for you, Benjamin. A reflection.
It's just a quick observation, really. As you were speaking, I'm finding this fascinating. And I'm making all kinds of comparisons here in the UK. But one of the things, just to put out there, is that I realise that so far we haven't talked about the role of universities or the role of education providers in helping shape and define a sense of place. It's almost like it's a large provider, isn't it, of a service that has an impact on the locality.
The anchor institution for it.
Yes.
And we can't ignore their impact on the region. They have a liaison to our group, so they have a non-voting member of the general forum, and they have a seat in most committees that we have. I meet with them on a monthly basis, and it's a very fruitful partnership, but it is also, there's tense relations at times as well, because the university's goals are not always tied to the municipality's goals, the goals of the people who live here permanently. And so there is that challenge to navigate just business. The private business's goals are not those of the people who live there. So you're trying to find a balance between there. A lot of communication, a lot of compromise that goes into that.
So go ahead, Brittany, and tell us what you've got for us today.
Right here. And I actually just had some pictures to share because we're talking about the sense of place. And so I really wanted you guys to understand media. So we're going to start the slideshow. So again, my name is Brittany. I've been in and out of government for the last 15 years, mainly in the areas of community and economic development. And so I love local government, love public service, but I really love building vibrant communities. Like that's kind of my personal and professional passion. Okay, so my objective when I was talking to Nancy is really to talk about preserving community character. And so I'm going to share a little bit about media's history and how we became a community with a strong identity. I'll talk about kind of what's happening present day and share some of those challenges that we're dealing with as we wrestle with that tension of growth and how we're trying to preserve our identity into the future. So just to set the stage for Media Borough, we're located in the northeastern part of the United States. We're a suburb of Philadelphia. We have what I would describe as really good bones. We were incorporated, settlers have been here since the 1680s, but we were incorporated in 1850. and it was built as a planned town. So we were built with a an urban core, like a grid pattern to help support the county seat. We had transportation. We have a regional rail. We have this trolley. It's usually white, but this was a special one. But we have this trolley that goes down the middle of our main street. We have bus routes. We have a diverse housing stock, multiple schools, and it's a small footprint. It's less than 3/4 of a square mile. And if I'm doing my math correctly, I think that's like less than 2 square kilometers. We have about 6,000 people at night. So that's how many people are residents who sleep here. But during the day, that swells. It doubles to about 12,500 because of the county seat. And that's the courthouse you see right there in the top left picture, which brings activity to the courthouse. And we have a very busy business district. So doubles during the day. And despite having all those good bones, I mean, media wasn't always vibrant. In the 1990s, we had high crime, vacancy in our commercial districts, some neighborhoods and housing that was in disrepair. And, I think while you have to have those good bones are very helpful to start, having the transportation, the housing, and the economic activity, you also really need that people power, right? And it took the leadership of our current mayor. He's actually retiring after 32 years as mayor, but he helped to set the vision for the town. He and elected officials were proactive about economic development. They attracted restaurants, they attracted grocery stores and retail. They started some signature events that would help to draw people into the town. And they really helped to create this vibrant downtown with the core value that this place can truly be everybody's hometown. And so that's our motto. You'll see it. It's literally everywhere in the town, including in some of our sidewalks. And this is just a picture of that. So media today is a vibrant, active, and inclusive community. It's got that historic charm too. We have over 100+ businesses on our main street, which is, all these are pictures of our main street, which is called State Street. And we have 30 events every year that require street closures. We do things like festivals, parades, art shows, ice sculpture events, a little bit of everything. And this is a signature event that our mayor had started. It's called Dining Under the Stars. And every Wednesday from May to September, every single Wednesday, the restaurants take their tables, put them out in the street, and everybody just eats out there. And there's like music happening and events for the kids to, stay occupied, games and balloons and that kind of thing. So it's a really cool event. It attracts 2,000 to 3,000 people every Wednesday from across the region. But for us, it's not just about the commercial district. We're also a really strong environmental town that has we've been a leader in environmental issues like, not just recycling, but composting. And we have 6 different parks, 2 playgrounds, a large pedestrian plaza, all again within 3/4 of a square mile. And I think it's because of all of these things that we've become this regional destination, and we have become a community of choice. And so people want to shop here, they want to dine here, they want to live here, which is awesome, but it also comes with challenges. So particularly with regards to housing, we have in a way become a victim of our own success. This demand for the town has caused significant issues with rising housing costs, with rising residential rents and commercial rents. We have a pretty good housing stock, over time. The housing stock people have really been taking care of their houses. We have single families, we got townhouses and row houses. We have some multifamily, apartments, which is the top right picture. So we have a nice diverse stock, but rents are rising across the board. Our first $1 million home went on the market about 43 years ago, maybe 3 to 4 years ago. And every single family house has been over $1 million now. And we're hearing from our long-standing families that their children can't afford to come back to town, and that seniors who do live here can't afford to downsize. They can't sell. They could sell quickly, but then where could they go? Workers can't afford to live here. And again, we have that really strong commercial district, right? So it's important to be able to have those workers be somewhere nearby. So it's all too expensive, and it's kind of become a serious issue. So one of the things that our borough council, our local elected officials is focused on finding housing solutions, affordable housing solutions. We did a study to figure out the data, find out what's happening in the housing market. And it was really helpful. We did that in 2023. And then in 2024, using that data, we developed this housing strategy, which really focuses and starts with a vision, right? And for us, we want to make sure that Media Borough is a place where renters and homeowners can access affordable housing at all stages of life, from residents' first apartments to their starter homes to downsizing in our community. So that's the vision that our local elected officials set. And we have adopted that strategy, and we're focused on, there's several goals there. We're focused on households making under $75,000 a year. We're really focused on our seniors who are trying to help them age in place. And while we don't have, we're just kind of starting this process over the last year or so, there's a number of action items that we're going to be doing, and it's going to remain a focus. And I think it's, you hear in some other communities out here that everyone's concerned about affordable housing, and there's this kind of backlash to the idea of affordable housing. But I think it seems to be progressing okay in Media Borough right now, at least the idea of wanting it. But I think that's because it's tied into our core value that this should be everybody's hometown, not just a place for wealthy folks. So my goal here as a leader in this town is to preserve the character while we grow and change. And so you're looking at, it's some place called Plum Street Mall. On the left-hand side is what it used to be. We're in the middle. On the right-hand side is kind of not 100% finished, but we're actually in the middle of this project right now. And we, I show this picture because it's really important to remember that communities always change. And if they don't change, they die. And so we have to remember that as municipal leaders, so we're focused on building, opportunities for the folks who've been here a long time and those who are new to the town to, get together through events. We are also focused on the physical places that these people are going to be connecting. And I don't know if this is an international term or just what we say here about the third space, like it's neither your home or your work, but it's a place where you can gather with the community. And so that's what we're focused on making sure that we have those places in our town. And then again, we're focused on those policies like affordable housing that can help all people make this place their home. So it's a work in progress. And I know my time is running short, so I'll leave you with this last picture. I found this online and I loved it because it's not just a physical map. Like the Media Borough is a triangle and that's what's in the middle, but it highlights all these elements that make it a great town, right? We have the trolley in the bottom right. We have the theater right above it. We have museums and parks and dining under the stars at the bottom left. And, I think you need all these things to make, you don't need all these things to make a place great, but, you have to figure out what is important to your town. And those kind of become those shared identities. And it's just funny to me that when I just Googled, this is the map that came up.
You didn't know it was there.
I didn't know it at all.
You learned something about your city here.
Yeah. So I will leave you with
and Brittany, you have so many things and it's so beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. So joyful to hear about it.
Awesome. As Nancy alluded to earlier, I'm a little unique. So a little bit about my story, and I'll keep this very short. I was an angry, frustrated police officer who went to counseling, changed my life. And since it changed my life for the better, especially with ego, I started writing about that and spreading that word and seeing that ego is a very big problem in policing, and spent a lot of time developing classes to help my fellow officers defeat the negative aspects of ego. I just spent the summer teaching 220 of my officers classes on how to deal with their ego and giving them tools on how to keep from being in my office for negative things, working on their ego. Now, how do we translate this? That's the internal. And one of my sayings is the internal, if the department is not healthy internally, if we're not doing things right, discipline-wise and training-wise internally, when we interact with the community, we're going to fail. And that's when you see all these videos of these negative police interactions. I can almost guarantee you there's a problem with the culture of the police department, or there's a problem with training of the police department. You've got to heal the inside before you heal the outside. So what I've done in the past and what we're doing currently and what we'll be doing in the future is working on having those healthy interactions, specifically with the youth, which is funny. I heard the youth quite a bit. I've heard nonprofit quite a bit. So it's the same problems. And a program that we're that we're doing is how to interact with the police. So we put on a class, whether it's how to interact with the police during a car stop, which is where the police interact with the public the most, or how to interact with the police when we're just stopping to talk to you, whether that's a mere encounter, a detention, or an arrest. Most of the public, they don't know the law and they don't know their rights. And our officers also need to make sure that they know the law and they know the person's rights so that we're not violating our citizens' rights, and they know the law so that they're doing the right thing. So we need partners. We need to engage nonprofits. We need to engage churches so that we can get the youths to come. Because if we try to do this on our own, none of the youths are going to come. So we engage our nonprofits to get the youths here, 13 to 18 years old. We have specially trained officers that are some of our best, that are really good at de-escalation, really good at law, traffic law. And we try to make this enjoyable as possible. You know, we try to remove the friction that's there and kind of paint this in a way where we're helping them and possibly maybe even saving a life. Because a lot of times when there are these interactions, there is some sort of misunderstanding. And across the country, here in the United States, some of those interactions are deadly. And what I've seen is that there's a fear that there shouldn't be. So I'm doing my part with my department to lower that fear, build that positive connection with the community, and then make sure that the community knows that we're taking that on. And we're using social media and a platform that we use extensively to get our message out, called Crime Watch, to push that message out to the community. Yeah, that's something that we're doing. So again, the leadership part is internally making sure my people are healthy, my people are well-trained, and then take that goodness, take it on the outside, engage with churches, schools, nonprofits to get youth, specifically minority youth. We have a large minority population here. Some of them come from countries that the police they're not well-trained, they're corrupt, and the fear is already built into them, and we have to overcome that. And taking time to explain the law, to explain their rights, and just making sure that we're having that positive interaction. And after these classes, it's amazing to see the smiling, the barriers are removed between the police officers and the youths, and it's a positive engagement. And we create fans for the future and people that become possibly ambassadors for the police department. I see a question. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for an inspiring story and development you've gone through, and you use it in your setting of the police force. I'm also curious about, have you done any thoughts about what kind of role does place play into the meeting with the citizens? Is it different where you meet, in what kind of session, how the tensions are created and how to tackle the situation? Does place have some kind of role in it? I don't know if...
Yes, definitely
Yeah.
can. Here at the police department, we have to go to them. We have to go to places where they feel comfortable, which could be a church, which could be a school, which could be a community center where the nonprofits gather. So we have to go to them. We have to go to areas where they feel comfortable. And we have to have stakeholders from those groups there partnering with us because if we were to do this alone, we would fail.
Hmm.
And
I'm
that's it.
curious, do you have kind of a specific example about what you do, a meeting with a young kid and where you kind of do something to...
Yeah, I can tell you this. We have done a version of this where we were teaching, we did something called Citizens Police Academy, which is, we include that into, we could include a version of this into our Citizens Police Academy. And we did one that was all in Spanish. We have a large Spanish-speaking population here that is afraid because of the political climate that's going on in our country. And one of the stories was, she was watching, this woman was around with some of her friends who had not come to the class, and they were watching a TV show. American TV has all sorts of police stuff on there, and they were watching a police show with police, and they were pulling somebody out of the car or getting somebody out of the car. Her friends were saying, oh, they can't do that. That's against the law. This woman who had gone to our class knew the law. She said, no, they are allowed to do that, and started quoting the law that we taught her to her friends and kind of educated her friends there. And she was very proud that she knew the law and she could help friends know the law, keep them safe so that there was no misunderstanding in the future.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a strong example. Thank you. It's so much likewise. We're so happy to be able to share across national borders. It's so important in this time that we're in. I don't know, maybe I could be like the teacher and pointing out, I'm just curious also, Mette, you are working with jobs and youth and all of these areas that these different kind of people have been telling us about. What kind of thoughts are you having right now, learning from US, listening to the US stories about place?
I love, thanks for some very inspiring presentations. One of the thoughts I have right now is the idea about both the time we map places and the way we map places, that what we see the map we can draw. I think it was John who said policing, whether they go on foot or in a car, you experience the place in different ways. And I can't remember if it was Brittany who talked about also the time, like how many people are there in daytime and nighttime. That gave me a lot of pictures about mapping places and spaces. Depends on how we do it and when we do it. And we get it. It also means that when we want to involve all those different people and voices, what do we see? If we only see people in daytime while we're working, we see different things than if we go there too during the night. So it is very inspiring. And when it comes to my work in a little or middle-sized municipality in Denmark, also when we talk about jobs and job creating and how we can use the civic power in the local areas in helping people into jobs, you've given me a lot of things to think about, but I find it very difficult just to summarize it right now. So I just want to say thank you. And what maybe when you asked me, Christa, it's also because you and I have been doing some work about how to engage young people in job creation and how we can use the power of local communities in creating jobs and in helping others into jobs, so that we expand our notion of this is like a public service, and instead it's more how can we connect different, what do you say? How can we connect different insights, competences, resources that's already there? And in that way, for instance, we have worked a lot with local, help me, someone. Companies, that's the word I'm living. Local companies, so that it's the company that inspire other companies in creating what we call small jobs. It might be 5 or 8 hours a week a person can work. And how do we create those positions in the local communities so that people don't have to travel far away to get a job, but they can actually go by bike or by foot and then work the 5 to 8 hours a week that they can manage, and then gradually maybe build their competences and their resources. So thanks a lot for this invitation.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mette. And I really like the way you highlight and also the change and transformation of roles and how we need to have other kind of dialogues and respond to the citizens, to the human being in another kind of way to be able to support them and in that sense also ourselves. And I think, Ron, I think that's kind of what I took from your story also, that you totally changed your role and now you're trying to manage others to change their roles and thereby also the communities.
Thank you for the wonderful stories. To Ron, I would say beautiful changing from anger to a very happy man, I think. I've myself enjoyed the police in my local football club with my kids because, as they told me then, we have to know the kids now before they grow up, because when we know their names and their parents, it's easier later on to get in contact with them. And pretty beautiful with this use of public space. Wow, closing the streets, eating together. I hope we could do that in Denmark too. It's not the best weather all the time, but very, very nice. From the first story, maybe I'm a bit confused. I'm sorry, Benjamin, but it was so big a scale, and that actually made me reflect, is it just me? What is the right scale to work in? This is about closing libraries and putting them together in one big one. It is very nice to have a nice library. We have done the same. Now we have 2 libraries. When I started working in Høje-Taastrup, we had 7. So they've closed, but I think also it's a sad story from one perspective, because of course we have 2 very nice libraries now, but the libraries had a very nice role for the community. It being very local, they could play a much bigger role for the local community. What is it about scale here? What is the right scale to work with? And the right number?
It's interesting. And yeah, it's a Friday afternoon and everybody is also eager. Well, in Denmark, it's Friday afternoon to move further into the weekend. But thank you so much for your reflection and for giving back feedback. It was super interesting to hear these voices across borders. Maybe the rest, if you have any comments or questions, what resonates with you? What kind of new questions raises from today about understanding place? Maybe this is kind of tickling new kind of perspectives on place. And then, John, I want to give the last word to you.
Okay. I mean, I think the 2 things I'm taking away are that, as I kind of intervened after Ben spoke, I think there are some things, and Munu picked it up, I think there are some things that I need to go away and explore, and maybe we can use this forum to do that. One is the role of education institutions. The other is your point about scale. So there's a scale and there's a spatial dimension, but there's a scale dimension. Is there a point at which it becomes too big? Equally, there's a point at which it becomes too small. So what's the right scale? And the other thing that I would take away is to be, and I haven't got time to go into this in detail, I'm mindful of the mistakes I've made and the assumptions I've made, that when I was working in a neighborhood context and working alongside neighborhood practitioners, I realized the assumptions I was making and that I had to revisit them. So in another time, another place, listening to people talk about what they've had to revisit would be really interesting.
Thank you so much, John. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon and today at this webinar. I hope to see you all somewhere out in space at another time. But thank you for now.
Thank you, Christa.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's been so much very interesting. Wonderful. See you.
Good to see
Very
you.
nice to
Thank
meet you.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care.
Have a good weekend. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
enjoy
you.
the weekend.